the past 2 days, I've participated in a number of events in Portsmouth and France to honour those who risked their lives to defend our freedom and our values 80 years ago. The itinerary for these events was set weeks ago, before the start of the general election campaign, and having participated in all the British events with British veterans, I returned home before the International Leaders event later in the day. On reflection, that was a mistake and I apologise. I think it's important though, given the enormity of the sacrifice made, that we don't politicise this. The focus should rightly be on the veterans who gave so much. I had the honour and privilege of speaking to many of them and their families, hearing their stories, expressing my gratitude personally to them, but I'm someone who will always admit when I've made a mistake. That's what you'll always get from me.
I have to say, Prime Minister, you sound more exasperated than apologetic. These men made the ultimate sacrifice, and you couldn't even sacrifice a whole afternoon. Ken Hay, a 98-year-old D-Day veteran, told us that you let the country down. Is he right?
I participated in events both in Portsmouth and in France over 2 days because this is an incredibly important moment for our country to commemorate the sacrifice of all of those and their service, and it was a real honour and a privilege to meet many veterans and speak to them and their families, hear their stories, express my gratitude to them and build on our record of making sure that this is the best country in the world for veterans.
Prime Minister, you didn't care, did you?
No, I cared deeply.
Then why didn't you stay?
As I said, the itinerary for these events was set weeks ago, before the general election campaign. I participated in events both in Portsmouth and in France, and having fully participated in all the British events with British veterans, I returned home before the International Leaders event. That was a mistake, and I apologise for that, but I will always be proud of our record in supporting veterans here in the UK. We have a dedicated Office for Veterans Affairs, the first Veterans Minister sitting in Cabinet, and a range of programmes to support them with health, housing, employment needs. That's something that I've worked very personally on because it's personally important to me. And as I said yesterday and the day before, I had the privilege of speaking with many veterans and their families to express my personal gratitude to them for their service to our country and to honour what they and their colleagues have done for us.
I'm told your team considered cancelling your attendance at the entire event yesterday. Your team denies this. I'm told by sources that denial is a flat lie. So can you clarify for viewers, did you or anyone around you ever consider skipping the Normandy celebration?
That's simply not right. The itinerary for these events was set weeks ago before the general election campaign. Of course I was always scheduled to participate both in Portsmouth and in France. I was proud and privileged to do so, to have the honour of meeting with many veterans and their families, to express my personal gratitude for everything that they've done for our country, to honour their service, their sacrifice, and ensure that our young generation learns from their example, hears the stories to understand what has happened before so that we might live today in freedom. It was a great and humbling privilege for me to spend time with all the families. As I said, after all the British events and all the British veterans that I spoke to, those events had finished, I returned home to the UK before the International Leaders event later in the day. On reflection, that was a mistake and I apologise for that, but I'm very happy to admit when I've made a mistake. That's what you'll always get from me.